Hello and welcome to a look at Cosmic Causeway for the Commodore 64, a game that was made by Mr. Chip Software and released by Gremlin. For those who are curious, Mr. Chip was later renamed to Magnetic Fields, which of course were responsible for epic games like the Supercar series and the Lotus series on specifically the Amiga. You play the role of a bouncing ball who has to navigate several different tracks, a total of 24. And in order to do that, you of course have to circumvent certain obstacles. Without obstacles, it wouldn't be much of a game. And the obstacles are in form of the tracks themselves. You've probably by now noticed that the tracks are divided into squares, and the squares have different colors, and the different colors will do different things, and in order to make sure we are all on the same page, I will explain what they do. The brown squares, equivalent of hue, dark or light, are neutral squares. They will not do anything special, you just roll across them. Green squares will temporarily speed you up. Blue squares will cause you to bounce. Red squares will slow you down. Cyan squares will invert your sideways controls. And purple squares will knock you back. Black squares are holes, they're not good, avoid them. That's the whole point. Gray squares are start finishing zones. That is where you are rewarded for the time you have remaining, and you can get power-ups, but I will get to that momentarily. You have a certain amount of time for each stage, and that any time you have spare after a stage will be transferred to the next stage until you get to the end stage of that block of tracks. All the tracks are divided into blocks, and when you reach the final stage of a certain block, you will be facing off against a dragon of some description that you have to try and take down in order to get past the level. And then it will reset your timer to a predefined default. So you can't just have 2, 3, 4 stages where you have epic times and then carry that time on for the rest of the game. That is a certain countermeasure that's been put in order to prevent that from happening. It's fair enough. I mean, you need to display some a certain amount of skill, I suppose, in order to go through the game. The skill required is definitely memorization, knowing what is happening and how to deal with it. And you can only get that by playing. You're very, very unlikely to play through the different stages perfectly. The first few stages are quite generous with time, and then it becomes more and more challenging, as it should. You have power-ups available, and you have to buy them with credits. Credits are the black, gray, glowing spheres you can see, and they will award you 1 to 3 credits randomly. And of course, the different power-ups you can get will cost a set cost associated with them, and you will need to wait for the marker to hover over them and then press fire in order to buy that power-up or the power-up you want. The power-ups score bonus multiplier, the ability to ride on the ceiling, immunity to cyan squares, immunity to purple squares and red squares, and a turbo, which will be showcasing at some point, a shield that will prevent you from being knocked off the track by bouncing into things, and I can't remember what the last one's doing. I could look it up, but can't remember. I don't know for a fact because I've never completed this game, but I would assume that the games have been decided, or the stages have been decided and designed even in such a way that you can complete them without having any power-ups. But at the same time, the power-ups are nice to have, and another of the challenges, of course, is to know when to use what power-up that will benefit you the most. Graphically, it's perhaps a bit basic. I mean, squares. The squares are squares. But it works perfectly fine. There will be some extra graphics like obstacles and dragons and all that kind of stuff. And It all has a sort of cutesy style to it. The board you play has a distinct resemblance to the Amiga logo, so I don't know whether they were intentionally trying to advertise for the Amiga. But of course, the graphics, considering the fact that it's full screen 3D or pseudo 3D, it moves extremely well. And from a technical point of view, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this game. The sound effects are nice, but can be a bit grating, and the music, I can take it or leave it. I can appreciate that it's decent quality, but I'm not particularly enamored by the music, and I don't particularly dislike it either. It's there, what can I say? But, and this is the main point I want to make about this video, this is a sequel to the absolutely brilliant Trailblazer. And in my opinion, the key to any good sequel is to make enough new stuff to justify calling it a sequel, but also retain enough of the old stuff not to alienate your existing player base, the players of any earlier games in whatever series it might be, should instantly feel at home. In that regard, I can't help but feel that this game falls flat on all counts. Remember, these are opinion pieces, feel free to disagree, but if you play this game and you're not familiar with Trailblazer at all, you'll probably find it a bit odd, a bit bizarre, a bit weird, possibly enjoyable, but possibly also a bit eh. And if you have played Trailblazer and you know Trailblazer and you love Trailblazer, you'll probably wonder what the hell Mr. Chip Software was doing when they made this sequel. The original Trailblazer is a relatively simple game, but it's beautiful because it's simple. It's magical because of its simplicity. Very easy to pick up and play, and I will happily admit that it's one of my all-time favorite games on any system ever. Call me a simpleton, I don't care, I absolutely adore Trailblazer. Taking that game, throwing in a power-up system, making it full screen 3D, I don't personally feel that it adds anything to the existing formula. I assume that getting access to the different power-ups is part of the supposed gameplay enjoyment, but the fact is that even if you manage to pick up the credits, which can feel a bit hit and miss, you can't predetermine how many credits you will have available, because it is a random number you are getting. So you can't guarantee that you will have a certain power available for a certain stage where you will want to use it. I suppose it could add to replayability, but for me, it just feels like, what's the point of having the power-up system if it's going to be random whether you can access the power-ups or not? Cosmic Causeway as a game, it's a good game, but as a sequel, which I see it as, because that's what it is, I don't feel in any way, shape or form it even reaches the knees of the original Trailblazer, and I have never been able to enjoy it remotely as much as I did with the original. And that's why I'm going to return the game's rating of me by saying it's a bit harsh, it's not lousy, but it's definitely not as good as the original. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye.